History lives in the stories we choose to remember and the promises we keep. Author Robert M. Edsel joins us now with his powerful new book, an unforgettable tribute to the heroes of World War II. And Robert, it's great to have you here on Cincy Lifestyle. Let's dive into your new book. You've focused on a part of history that really isn't talked about much, or maybe even known about by some people. What inspired you to write Remember Us?
Well, Remember Us is an amazing untold story about World War II, and it's hard to imagine that there are any major untold stories about World War II, but this one hasn't been told. There are, I focus on 12 Americans. Some are flyers, some are tankers. We have a gravedigger in there, an American chaplain, twins that are both pilots and allowed to fly in the same plane. Some make it, some don't. But the story converges in this area of the Netherlands where World War II began, where in Western Europe, the German tanks roll across the Dutch border on their way to Belgium and France. And it's there that there's a temporary American cemetery, what we know today as the Netherlands American Cemetery, that at the end of World War II had 17,800 boys and some women buried there, including about 590 from Ohio that are still there today. Every American community has a connection to this story. There's someone from every single state in the United States. I wanted to, of course, tell people who were some of these men and women that provided the freedom to the Dutch, but where World War II stories, our telling World War II stories end. We came home, we won, we were victorious. We go into the homes and we find out what it's like for these families that have gotten the worst news possible. And then this transcendent moment, the uplifting aspect of the book, the Dutch wanted to find an answer to this question. How do you thank your liberators when they're no longer alive to thank? And through the experience of two women, one of whom I knew the last 8 years of her life, we tell this story about the idea that they had as an answer to that question by creating a grave adoption program and making sure that every one of these boys and girls' graves were watched over by the Dutch like their own forever. And they've been doing it now for 80 years. Really an amazing, inspiring story about the difference one person can make.
What does it mean to you to see this kind of transatlantic gratitude still alive 80 years later?
Well, it's inspiring. It's also, distressing to a sense. I think so many Americans take for granted our freedom. We think of it like our health. When we don't have our health, then we feel bad. The minute we have our health back, we don't think about it anymore. But, we don't need to look any further than Ukraine to see what it's like when you wake up one day and the thing that you took for granted, you don't have anymore. The Dutch don't take it for granted. They take their kids, their grandkids, entire schools are at this cemetery every single day. This isn't like most American cemeteries I know of. Unless someone's being buried, there's nobody there. This is a place that's upbeat. It's filled with, despite the paradox, life, because they're making sure that their kids know you're able to think what you think, go where you want to go, all because the freedoms that you have that were paid for with the lives of these American men and women that are buried here. And they drill it into them and they understand. There are 1,000 Dutch people on a waiting list to become adopters of these graves. The turnover is only about 20 or 30 a year because the families that these have stayed in that knew these American boys, and in some cases women, continue to take care of them. They have that sense of loyalty and obligation. So you can't help but be inspired by, in a world where what's a promise mean anymore, the commitment that they made 80 years ago, and 80 years later, they're at 100% of taking care of every one of these families' memories, and it's really heartwarming.
Robert, if someone wants to read Remember Us or any of your other books, where can they go to find it or to learn more about you?
It's available at their local bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can get it online. We have a great audio book with a fantastic reader, and I've read the epilogue and, of course, ebook. So it's out there. I'm traveling the country talking about it. It's an amazing story. It's just going to leave you feeling proud that there are people in the world like these Dutch people doing what they did. And of course, the American boys and women that sacrificed their lives for the freedom we enjoy.
Well, Robert, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
Thanks, Pete.